Inside the four walls, it's clear that you no longer just do one thing, that you have to be diverse and you have to offer great variety and you have to be accessible to everyone. Our design is interesting. Unlike any other performing arts center you've ever seen, and unlike any performing arts center that is under construction, and I give Barton credit for this. He does very contextual buildings, and what he does is unique. You can go to his centers, and you can sort of tell by the interior balcony work, but other than that, it all looks different. And so our performing arts center is all glass across the front. It's one lobby and gathering space. There's one front to it with gazillions of front doors. The whole thing feels accessible. So you walk in, and it's one big open space, and then we're going to have 3 halls right next to each other, which hardly anybody does. If you think about in other cities where they have multiple halls, they're usually around a courtyard or they're in different places and they're separate. So the ballet doesn't interact with Broadway, who doesn't interact with opera or the orchestra or whatever. So this is unique in the sense that we're trying to get everyone to mix. So and it's flat. So you do not take a step up to go into our art center. It is at grade, so to speak.
Not even a curb.
Yeah, not even a curb. It's a complete flat street, 0 curb. So the thought there by Barton was you open your front door and the arts are open for business, and here we are, and there is no sort of separation or anything. So then we took that same mindset, and if you think about sort of being in the building, well, then you have to sort of turn your head around and think that between City Hall and the building, there's this public plaza. And what's going to go on in the public plaza, and what are you going to do there to make everybody be involved? And in some ways, the public plaza is sort of it's your gateway in a lot of ways. Even if you put on the right program and you price it right and everything, there's still somewhat of a challenge on someone who's never been to a show, or someone who's intimidated, or someone who's from out of town and doesn't know anybody, or where do they park, or they don't really know some things. So the plaza, and Kathy and I have looked at these all over the country, these performances you do at lunchtime, or something you do on the weekend for kids, or something you do in the evening, they become this sort of gateway. It's working wonderful in Miami at the New World Symphony. They have stuff outside on their lawn with video projection, and these are people that you would not say are symphony. I mean, they really opened a whole new market, partly with Bacardi sponsoring it and doing a lot of cool stuff, but it works, and it's thousands and thousands and thousands of people in Miami that are now fans of that art form that had no idea. So talk about the theory behind that and what we're going to do outdoors versus indoors.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, whoever thought food trucks, blankets, and the symphony, and that's what's happening down in Miami. So the one thing that Barton did that we really appreciated is his architecture doesn't follow his style. It follows our mission. So every time we actually said, okay, the Art Center actually was elevated at one point, and we said, no steps. So he said, okay, I get it, I understand. And so we actually dropped the building about 4 feet so we could actually not have a step from a structural perspective. That's how relevant the mission was, is how do you make this accessible? The plaza was something that we feel that's the great family room of Central Florida, great kitchen, great, your gathering place of a home. And what makes it the most successful is programming. And that goes back to the institution that we were just talking about, and how important knowing your market and programming is the nonprofit is responsible for programming that plaza. And when we talk about programming, it's not just artistic programming. I mean, one of the things that we discovered that made places so successful were chairs. Mm-hmm. If you have the chance to move your chair in a public space, it's your space and it's your chair. So you can move it in the sun and you can just have your quiet space, or you can move it to where you can be seen if that's what you want, or you can move it to go see something or enjoy something. So, we walk off every once in a while, but that's part of our responsibility, and we're okay with that. But the programming there would be anything from, and this was something that was in stage 1 that's not funded right now, is there's the opportunity to have a massive screen on the face of our building that faces the plaza. So is it possible that we could stream in the Met, the opera, on a Sunday morning? This is in the wintertime. Is it right now out of Jazz at Lincoln Center, Wynton Marsalis is doing the same thing. Right. How can we grab that content? How can we celebrate as a community with our next inauguration and have an event that has nothing to do with the arts? Films. We could partner with some of the film festivals and say, you know what, consider something outside in the plaza. very, very small things. There's a really wonderful program in New Jersey, and their plaza is nothing like ours, but they make it very, very relevant. They program it on a Thursday night starting right about now.
Yeah.
And everyone from Manhattan actually goes to Newark, New Jersey for this. And around 5 o'clock, they'll start out with something that might be for a certain population, maybe a trio, maybe something just kind of symphonic, just chamber music. And then as the evening evolves, the music changes, and by the end of the night, there's this wonderful, kind of urban music. And what they found is audiences started staying and blending and experiencing new types of art. They initially thought, okay, this crowd's going to leave here, this crowd's going to leave here, and the next thing they discovered, all these people are experiencing and they're participating in something they would not have done before in a very free and public space. And so the challenge we gave to Craig was, and he already knew this, and he stepped up and said, this is the most important thing that I'd like to be involved in, was how do you make the outside of the Art Center as important as the inside of the Art Center? And that's been, again, from Arts for Every Life, but that's been the challenge that we've given this great master planning committee that's really done this. We've had to do this too. We've had to rethink this several times. You should talk about that.
So the outdoor, the plaza, the Arts Plaza, has gone through the same evolutionary process that the building went through. And I'm really have always had an idea of what it was going to be, but we've gone through exactly how we're going to execute that. So, but we've been working on it very hard for the past 6 or 8 months. And the project team led by Baker Barrios has really come in and designed around what Kathy and Ellery and her team know it needs to be used for, and sort of the benchmarks that we've given them from other cities. And we've come up with a public space that is really unique to Orlando. And one thing you have to do when you do public space is you have to think about what's Lake Eola already good at, and what are the other places already good at, and what's going to be the niche of our public space, and then how's it going to work, and how's it going to feel when there's one person there, and how's it going to feel when there's 3,000 people there. And there's this real interesting challenge. I mean, I think both of y'all, or all of y'all know that there's development sites on either side of the plaza that are not going to happen anytime soon.
But it was designed, this is
right. So
the
the total pivot that we've had to make is the original design of the plaza assumed a hotel on the north side and an office building on the south side. So we've spent years designing an outdoor theater flanked essentially by balconies, because we were going to, through design standards, make the lower levels of those buildings look like, if you think about old European cities where outdoor areas were framed by balconies. That was Barton's whole thing. Great idea. And then the real estate market craps out, and we're not going to have a hotel or an office building, and so now we've got nothing.
And they were they were supposed to be opened before
all
the
that
Art
stuff
Center
was supposed to be done.
So the commercial development we already had people that were pursuing the development of those properties. So the commercial development was supposed to be completed before the Performing Arts Center was completed. So we designed it with the buildings in place.
So now it's the opposite. We have a plaza with 2 grass fields on either side, where we've had to work really hard to set the edge, and how are we going to define that space and make your mind's eye sort of want new development there and have it look natural when it happens, but we're going to look okay in the interim. And we're going to have to think about the shade just think about that in Florida. If you would have had a multi-story office building there, the shade always runs this way, the sun always goes this way. So now we're dealing with a bright site all day versus a shady site, and you're dealing with no ground floor retail. And we were hoping for restaurants and services and whatnot wine bars and whatnot that would have been flanking the plaza. Those don't exist now. So we have to go to a pavilion concept where we can cater and do food and beverage out of, and sell tickets and have autograph signings for Broadway stars and all these things during the day. So it's just a complete sort of rethinking about how you do all that stuff. And it's been fun. It's been totally different, and it makes you change your mindset and sort of figure out how to reinvent something. And we haven't given the mayor near enough credit today, because he gets all this stuff. He sees it in his mind, and he gets it. So now the neat thing about the public space is the city's become very engaged in making the public space extend across Orange Avenue and tied into City Hall. And so now we're talking about a total integration of all the public space that you see in front of. And so that's kind of the home run. If we can get that entire public area to function together. The plaza in front of City Hall has never really been exciting the way it should be, and that has something to do with the design and something to do with the uses and something to do with the programming. But if we can take on all that and make it work, that'd be great. And this is where thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people will go for a concert or an NBA championship or something like that to celebrate. So, I mean, that to me has made it exciting. And I'll give you a little anecdote about why. Kathy's heard me say this, and she doesn't necessarily love it, but it's the truth. So 1% of the population is going to go inside the Performing Arts Center. If you're sold out every night, I mean, that's how many people are going to like it. But everybody can go to the outside. And you can, if you have one great event on the outside with thousands of people, you ultimately can become, this is the Sydney Opera House phenomenon. I mean, not that many people in Sydney go inside. It is not, they can't, there's not that many seats. But the entire community identifies with it. It's the symbol of their city. It has great pride, great emotion and everything. So that's the goal with the outdoor space, right? It's we want you to fall, you can fall in love with the Performing Arts Center and never go inside. It can mean something to you. So that's the idea, right? I mean, that's the end goal. And I will not be going to the ballet whenever we open that up, because that's not my thing. But I will go to the ballet at lunch if it's outside, right? I mean, if it's something fun to go check out. So that's what I was talking about using the outdoor and indoor space together. And I will go to Broadway inside already, but we might want to bring Broadway outside too and figure out how to do all that stuff. So when you see hopefully some crazy fun things going on at the Plaza, that's all by design. And we want to be that really diverse space where there's a lot of things going on. We want you to be walking downtown and there be some pop-up performance or some piano in the middle of it, or Blue Man Group doing something, and you'll be like, hey, that's great, we're in Orlando and it makes sense because we're trying to draw in all this talent. So that's the thought process.